Hi everybody, this is the Baseball Head, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the People's Champion. Your host, and welcome back to the Baseball Head. Hopefully you like this video and hit that subscribe button. This is one of the best channels you can find on the internet because I get you ahead of the curve. We've been talking a lot about Luis Castillo for the last few weeks. The Mets are interested in him. Also mentioned I was one of the first YouTubers to do a video on the Mets' interest of Alex Bregman. I'm going to tell you what some of the sources I get. I get them from online. And this one source, he's pretty good. But so you need to hit that subscribe button. You'll be ahead of the curve when it comes to doing just to sort of, and also would mention, take you back a little bit. 3 winters ago, your host predicted that the Mets would sign Max Scherzer. So keep that in mind. I'm ahead of the curve on a lot of this stuff because I'm constantly thinking. That's my problem. I think too much. People say I don't think enough. But anyway, I said Luis Castillo was a guy the Mets should be interested in because the Mets need pitching, and the price tag for this pitching market, the free agents, is outrageous. And they can't just get all these guys from the market that are just outrageous prices and just unseemly prices. We know that Blake Snell went for a very high price. We know that Luis Severino went for an outrageous number from the A's. I'd like to call them the Oakland A's, but they're not the Oakland A's anymore. They're the Nomad A's. But I mentioned Luis Castillo as a player that they should be interested in, and now we have a report here. This is from MLB Trade Rumors. Mets Orioles among teams to inquire about Luis Castillo. Managed right-hander Luis Castillo has received plenty of interest from various clubs amid a hot market starting pitching this winter, with the Red Sox and Cubs among the teams who've been connected to the right-hander so far. Now, the Red Sox obviously made that massive trade with the horrible White Sox and picked up Garrett Crochet. And the Cubs have been very busy. There's been a lot of talk to the Cubs trying to get Jesus Luzardo from the Marlins. So these two teams are trying to get better. And we also know that the Cubs made that Blockbuster trade on Friday for Kyle Tucker. I mentioned with the Red Sox and Cubs among the teams who have been connected to the right-hander so far. A report from the Athletic's Ken Rosenthal, also known as the Munchkin, this evening name checks 2 more clubs who have at least inquired about the veteran. The Mets and the Orioles. With that said, however, the Munchkin emphasized the Mariners are only willing to deal Castillo if the return package improves the big league club as they look to return to the postseason next year. Now, well, we'll get into that. Both clubs are certainly sensible suitors for the right hand. The Mets have already added Clay Holmes and Frankie Montas to a rotation and entered the offseason with only Kodai Senga and David Peterson locked into starting roles for 2025. But those additions offer little certainty to the Mets. That is true. That makes a steady and reliable arm like Castillo's a sensible choice for the final rotation spot in Queens. But it's unclear whether New York has the big league ready pieces to offer Seattle in order to facilitate a deal. Top prospect Luis Acuna would surely be attracted to the Mariners as a big league ready infield option who looked good in a 14-game cup of coffee with the Mets last year. But the soon-to-be 23-year-old could be a major factor in the club's plans. 25, given his ability to not only play the infield and also a strong center field. That figures to be particularly true if the Mets failed to re-sign Pete Alonso and move Mark Vientos to first base, which would seemingly open up regular playing time for Acuna at either second or third base. Now, think about the Mariners. They're very deep with their pitching. And the Mets are, in their farm system, are not very deep in their pitching. But they are deep with middle infielders, and they have a glut there. I mean, the Mets have so many middle infielders now that they have a plethora of players they can trade from. But the Mariners are trying to contend, so they want position players that are ready and in the major leagues. We continue. Now the Orioles, by the way, have a lot of position players. They can field a major league club at AAA. That's how good their farm system is and how good and particularly their infield. Another obstacle to a potential Castillo deal the Munchkin writes is that parting ways to the right-hander could leave the club thin on rotation depth. While their top 4 of Logan Gilbert, George Kirby, Bryce Miller, and Brian Wu would remain among the strongest in the sport. Big league ready options like Emerson Hancock and Jonathan Diaz don't provide much confidence for the Mariners' back end. One solution to that problem, of course, could be a young pitcher heading back to Seattle as part of the return for Castillo. The Cubs have Jordan Wicks and Javier Assad, Red Sox Richard Fitz and Cooper Criswell. The Mets have Tyler McGill and Paul Blackburn. And the Orioles have Cade Povich and Trevor Rogers. You want to deal with Trevor Rogers. All have players on their rotation bubble who they could at least theoretically make available in trade talks with the Mariners. Should improving rotation depth be key to a deal from Seattle's perspective? So, what kind of trade are we looking at? The Mets have been very smart about what kind of pitching they want. He has 3 years on his contract. That seems to be the most years that David Stearns wants to give any pitcher. Just from his own reputation in Milwaukee and the short time we've seen him here with the New York Mets. So he already has 3 years on his contract, remaining on his contract, that he signed with the Mariners once he got traded from the Reds to them. The Mets have one big free agent. That's Sean Manaea. Who's probably looking for 4 years. It makes sense that they bring in Castillo and they sign Manaea. Then they have some depth at the back end. Paul Blackburn, David Peterson, Tyler McGill. But if McGill goes in a deal, Blackburn goes in a deal, and it gives you sort of an insurance policy in case Kodai Senga is not up to par. And he's had injuries in Japan, and obviously the injuries have popped up again this past season. Now, the Mets, what kind of package are we talking about? Luis and Acuna would be on the table. Jeff McNeil would be on the table based on the fact they had no offense really on that club. And I wouldn't have a problem with giving them money. He's an everyday player. You could play him around. They've liked him for a long time. They tried to get him for in the Edwin Diaz deal years ago with Robert Cano. It makes a lot of sense to sort of send him in that kind of a package. This would be like at least 4 or 5 players we're talking about here. Acuna has been in the major leagues. People say, well, why not about Jed Williams? Jed Williams is not ready for the major leagues. According to this, they want major league ready players and players in the big leagues. Jeff McNeil is obviously he's been a star, been an all-star a few times. Acuna's been a guy that has been to the big leagues. He got his feet wet. He's very impressive. He's not as good as Jet Williams, to be honest with you. And Jet Williams is not ready for the majors. Perhaps you give them a Drew Gilbert. Perhaps you give them a Blade Tidwell. The only pitcher you do not give up is Brandon Sprout. The rest of the Met pitchers you could probably give up. Probably give him Jonathan later down on the road. That later down the road, that's a possibility. But that's kind of the package we're looking at, quite frankly. Now, you let me know what you think about that. People are constantly sending me different trade proposals. I look at the trade proposals where one team trades 15 players to another team for 6 players, and then you got 9 holes on your 40-man roster. I love those kind of trades. I haven't got one of those in a while. If you're a YouTuber, you know who I'm talking about. Those are the best trades that have like you basically disrupt your entire club for 5 other players. I mean, and it's funny. I was thinking about it, when people send me these different trade scenarios. It's almost like they're trading baseball cards. All right, I'll give you this player, this player, this player, this player, blah, blah. And I just want that one player that I don't have in my set. It's very similar to that. Well, you let me know what you think about this video. And again, I thank you for watching. Keep your eye out for videos. Follow me on X at the Baseball Hut, trying to get 500 followers on there, get verified completely. And of course, that's it. And that's the bottom line. And hopefully, I expect the Mets to make a big trade. I expect them to make a couple big signings here before we get out of the new year. Before we get into the new year, to be honest with you. God willing. So thank you for watching. Have a good night, and I'll see you later.